Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and we are live. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained, and this is the fourth installment of my MYFAROG mini campaign. The mini campaign is known as No Wings for the Fallen, and we're joined by Matt. And Matt has actually run through all of the well, this will be the final adventure for him, but he he started out, he kind of went through them in a slightly different order than I originally had written them, and so we kind of pieced together this campaign. I believe he did adventures 2, then 3, then 1, and now 4. So continuity wise, for his character's perspective, it doesn't really make a difference. As a player, he's kind of seeing, and I've been alluding to him, the way that these adventures come together. So the next time that I run this mini campaign, they'll be run in order with, potentially a new group of players. So this final installment of No Wings for the Fallen is known as the Long Forgotten Darkness. And this adventure is meant to tie everything together. So Niall is Matt's character, and Niall is in the port town of Stem Sound, which is a port town, kind of far to the south in in the lands of Thule. And I'll connect up maps and everything to the video broadcast, so that if you are watching this, you can click on it and kind of get that perspective. All right, so we are going to continue where we left off, and a few things. This particular adventure and all of my adventures, they are constructed using the MYFAROG 2.6 rules edition. There is currently a 2.7 out, which has some errata and some minor changes to it. I also use the supplements of Curses and Gifts, Travels and Treasures, Deus Machina, and the Coming, for which is set in a modern setting, but the Coming is a is a supplement that includes flaws and mental health, which we haven't really developed too much with this particular running, but that's certainly something that I would include for future gameplay, and when we start out our next campaign with fresh characters, and we'll have that included. So
if I could add something, mainly the Coming is more of a modern progression of the MYFAROG setting, and so you have, when you said dealing with mental health, it deals with PTSD and things like that.
Yeah, what it does is it allows the characters to to have a little bit more depth by having character flaws, and then they'll start out with a number of flaws, and then the player can choose to take 2 additional flaws for an added bonus trait to start out with. Flaws can be rolled either can be rolled randomly, or they can be the number of flaws you'll roll a d4 to determine how many you start with, and I allow players to randomly roll first, and then try to tweak them a little bit in order to get something that that kind of works. I don't like to force my players to deal with completely unworkable characters. Characters with flaws and some weaknesses and everything is one thing, but something that just doesn't conceptually make any sense. I wouldn't hold them to that. So anyway, so Niall is in STEM Sound, and STEM Sound, like I said, is a port town. And he's been here before. He's traveled back and forth between this town and and some of the locations where he's traveled to for his adventures. But he's always been brought back to this town for a variety of reasons. And the last adventure had brought him back here in order to try to tie up some loose ends. And so that's why we're, at this point. So the morning rain is still falling, lighter in this hour than last, but the gloom of the sky shows little signs that it will let up anytime soon. This, of course, means that most of the ships will remain docked, except, of course, those captained by the most dauntless of men. Torvik Greyhand is just one of those captains, however much to your chagrin. You will not be aboard his ship for very long. Although he is not fully abandoning you on your quest, he has agreed to drop you and provide you with any crew willing to accompany you at the location of your employer that your employer requested you. Employer, a strange term to be applied to Brill, a man of great influence that many shun, and the other men of power are at least somewhat wary of. You are not sure if he is a sorcerer, although many mutter that he is, and one of great experience. He did not so much hire you as he did command you for this task. However, you have not seen or heard that he is a very generous. However, you have seen or heard that he is very generous in his rewards for success. He has been known to reward even minor tasks with silver, but gold is likely for success in the most difficult of tasks. So you have been told by Torvik that this guy Brill, who you have not met with before personally, he seems to be the mover in Torvik's actions. So Torvik actually answers to him, and you've been accustomed to answering to Torvik. So now, Torvik informs you that, this guy Brill wants to meet with you, and or he has summoned you, and then Torvik, already tips you off that he is going to escort you to the place that you had been before, that outpost that you guys went to raid and found out that it had already been sacked by the time that you had gotten there. And so now you're going to be setting forth again, but Brill wants to meet with you first. So the sorcerer Brill has summoned you, it being 7 days following your return from your expedition under the command of Torvik the Grey Hand. Your other prospects of adventures have not materialized, especially with the last nearly 2 days of sustained heavy rains. All right, so at this point, I'm going to ask you to make a world lore check. Now, for those of you watching for the first time, the way the MYFAROG system works is that skill checks are done with a difficulty level in which the character has to, or the player has to roll 3d6 plus his or her modifiers in order to beat that that basic level of the roll. So the difficulty settings of rolls can be on average of 6 to 8. Easier ones closer to 6, and the real average roll is around 8. They start to, once you start getting to 10 and above, you start really getting to more difficult rolls. And finally, obviously any roll requiring, I'd say, a 16 or above is a quite really difficult task in order to complete, but it's still possible with characters with decent attributes and some luck. So so you are making a world lore roll, and I'll just tell you on a DD6. So that's a difficulty setting of 6, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, it was with all my modifiers, it was a 14.
Okay, a 14.
I am glad I took that training.
Yeah. And then a second roll.
Okay.
All right, that you'll make, and this one is on the religious skill check, religious tradition. So that's a charisma -5 if you don't have that trained.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So
I have a +1, so that'll be a -4 total.
Yeah.
Big roll. Let's see. 7, 8, 4. I doubt I made that.
A 4? No. So you didn't make that. So the world lore result reveals that you've heard about this guy. I mean, you've been in and around this town for a while, and so you know that Brill is rumored to be a sorcerer. You don't necessarily know what that actually means, but you do know that he is obviously an influential power within this region, and he's not to be messed around with. I mean, even the tribal chief kind of bends to Brill's will. At least that's the rumors that of him. I mean, you rolled significantly over what you were required to do. So, anything along those lines is something that you would have picked up. That I mean, you probably even heard some rumors or some whispered talking that Brill is the real power in STEM Sound. So you receive a message that through Torvik that Brill wants to meet you on on the following morning. So Torvik let you know in the evening. Tomorrow morning, Brill wants you to go to his home. All right, and meet with him. So the next morning, all right, the home of Brill is one of the largest structures in the town. It's fenced in by a tall palisade and a sturdy gate. Cut into the heavy gate is a smaller iron-bound door, accessible by a single person at a time. It is this smaller door that shifts upwards and rises as so it shifts inwards and then rises as you approached it. So it's like as you're walking up to the door, you actually see the small door. It shifts inwards and then slides up, which is somewhat of you can make actually a crafting roll.
Crafting, what is that?
So crafting
His intelligence -5,
His
so
intelligence
minus
-5.
a -4 total for me is +1. Need something big. That's not too bad. Let's see, 9, 10, 6 total.
A 6 total. Yeah, it's just, I mean, all you can kind of tell is that it's kind of an odd, like you've never seen a door open up that way, where it kind of slides away and then moves upwards. But that's about it. You have no real understanding of how that actually works. So, and well, so now you're so this door opens up. So what is your action going to be? And you're currently alone at this time.
I kind of pause for a bit because I've never seen a door open this way. Sort of look around at my surroundings in a confused sort of manner. But then I pull it together and straighten my back and go in and meet this brill with the bravest face possible.
All right. I'm just getting my dice ready. I should have done that earlier, actually. I will need a D4. I'll use my red D4 this time. So you check for crafting. So as you enter in through the in through the doorway, and you kind of glance around, you're looking at the door and trying to figure out how it goes up, but you still don't quite understand it. You see clearly there's a mechanism next to it, but much of it is like contained inside like a casing, and then you do see that there's a lever type action. So I mean that you understand that obviously the lever will raise the door, but you don't know how the rest of the actual mechanics works. Inside, once you're inside, so you enter into what looks like a inner open air courtyard. And the way it's kind of set up is that you can see that as you step in, there's a large structure in front of you, and then it has two side like offshoots from it that are also enclosed. And then the roof top has almost like it's like a cutout portion, a rectangular portion that's open air. All right. So you can see the sky above you. You can see like this is like a packed dirt, packed dirt entryway, with some stonework laid in for the walkway that leads to what you assume is the main house. The main house is up like a double wide flight of steps that goes to a almost like a fenced in like porch area type thing, and then the main structure. On the sides, there are other smaller structures with their own independent roofs. All right, and they're all steepled roofs, on each individual room or building or whatever they are. You don't see anyone, that appears to be, any kind of guards or anything like that. You do see some, probably like a handful of individuals walking here and there, and they appear to be they appear to be, based on their clothing, servants. Most of the servants are Commission, all right, which are, for those of you joining in and listening about the game for the first time, Commissions are outsiders. They're not native Thulians, and they're often found as either free merchants or servants or even thralls in some cases, which is a forced servitude. These particular, and there's no real way of telling whether it's a thrall or a servant. Although the merchants you can tell from the color of their clothing. So you enter the courtyard, and you can't recall ever seeing such a structure. At least one not occupied by the head of a tribe. You see several Commission servants walking about, doing various household tasks. You see no evidence of guards, and considering the wealth of the sorcerer Brill is suspected of having, you're initially surprised. Then again, his reputation is likely protection in and of itself. As you approach the main entrance to what you believe is the living quarters, again, the doors swing open, and a Thulian man, also garbed as a servant, but more richly so, greets you with a slight nod. So this is a man probably, in his 40s. And so he, like I said, he's dressed in servant garb, but it's certainly better made than, what the other servants seem to be wearing. And he bows down to you, and he says, "The master of the house is expecting you." And you're going to correct me on this, but he uses the title Adelig Nial.
How's that spelled?
Adelig is Adelig.
That sounds right.
Adelig. Yeah, so Adelig. It's a title in this area that they give to noblemen. Even though you're a freeman, he still gives, he still uses that title for you, which you think is kind of odd, but
yeah.
All right, so
Excuse me.
all right, so he invites you in. All right, and you enter into the room. So into a large room, and you make several checks as you enter in. So the room is like a foyer area or a salon type setup. So you can see that it's very wide open, like a open floor plan kind of thing. So you can see it's large, and there's different areas within this one entry area. So there's certainly an area where there are places for people to be seated for eating, but it's not quite like a dining room.
Mm-hmm.
It's more set up like a lounge, like a lounge area. You see bookshelves, and you see what looks like tables with some different types of vessels, so jugs and decanters and bottles and such like that. So you can make several You could just make a check on crafting once again. You're also going to make so that your crafting check will be a DD6.
Let's see. 10, 13 minus 4. That'd be a 9.
Okay. And then your second check. So let me just jot down your. So you made the crafting. Your second check is actually going to be. I'm going to keep that to myself. It's a DD8. So you can make that check, and I'll tell you your minus. Your minus is going to be a -5, but it's an intelligence. So you'll get a +1 for intelligence.
So -4. Oh, God, a 2.
Okay, so you'll be totally clueless on that. And make another DD6 check. This one will be on. Where is it? Where is it? This is intelligence minus. It'll be -4 total for you.
Okay.
+1, -4. Yeah. What'd you roll?
5.
A 5?
5 total.
Okay. And finally, you're going to make 2 more checks. All right. And one is going to be charisma minus only 2.
Okay. And I have a +1 to that, so it'll be a.
Yeah, just a -1.
Okay. So 6.
Just made that, barely. God. And finally, the other one is going to be dexterity -2, so +1 for you.
Yeah. Well, that's better. 14 -1, 13.
Okay. All right, so that's good. All right, so as you enter into this room, you're kind of trying to take everything in, and based on your understanding of social, social norms in this area, and having been in the in the hall that the chief of the tribe runs, you can see that this place is much more opulent than even what the chief of the village or of the town actually lives in. All right. You hear music being played in the in one of the side alcoves. There is a a person playing a lyre, but you don't recognize the song that's being played. You notice that there's people standing about, and they're doing various things. They certainly look like they're busy, and there's people reading in the corner. There's people reciting poetry. There's it just seems to be like a kind of like a show to you, because you made those those final 2 rolls, and it comes off as kind of scripted, so that's how you're kind of viewing it in somewhat. You think there's a certain amount of trickery going on. All right. You don't understand anything about the some of the items that are on the tables, like around those different vases and flasks and everything. Like you have no idea what that stuff is potentially used for. All right. Then finally, your attention, once you kind of absorb all of this, all of these things going on the outside, your attention is drawn to a man sitting at a desk. All right, and he's not looking at you at the moment. He's looking down. Looks like he's going through some papers. So you see a man, perhaps in his late 50s. He's lean but not frail, and with an intensity in his sharp, protruding, probing eyes. So, like as you're like kind of approaching him, he does look up, and then you can see, his eyes just catch your attention. His face has some of the features often associated with Outlanders: a long hawk-like nose and olive-skinned. His bald pate is skirted with long white hair, as is his long whiskey beard. As out of place as he appears, you know of him as being a native Thulian, and he wears the colors of those of high birth. All right, so he's certainly wearing the colors that you would typically see amongst noblemen. He speaks as you approach. He says, "Welcome, my guest, and thank you for answering my summons on such short notice." And then he pauses, for a bit, just like looking at you.
Which is kind of awkward to me. I don't really know what to do in this situation.
Well, he basically welcomed you.
Then I say to him, no apology needed on the short notice. Happy to be of service, and I'm just curious as to why I've been summoned here alone, since I'm merely a servant of Torvik Greyhand.
He kind of nods, and then he says, as you might be aware, I had some dealings with Torvik Greyhand, and although not completely successful, the expedition still bore some fruit, as they say. And then he pauses again. He says, I have requisitioned his ships once again for you and a group of willing adventurers to delve deeper into the matter and hopefully to recover what I was originally interested in. He then pauses even briefer, a briefer moment of time. He says, Are you familiar with what is known as the Alfar Way?
I know of the Alfar. I don't know of the Alfar Way.
All right, so you can
religious cult.
Yeah, you can make a roll check.
Let's see. I got an.
This is a world lore, by the way.
Okay, an 8 plus 1, 9.
Okay. All right, so the Alfar Way, as far as you know, it's actually how they describe an ancient roadway that ran through, believed to be all of the Thulian provinces at one time. Sometimes the roadway was above ground, sometimes paved, sometimes when I say paved, like cobblestoned. Sometimes it spanned it had spanned bridges and sometimes tunnels. And if you look at a Thulian map, which you might have seen, various versions of the, the full Thulian map, you can see in some places where they've actually plotted these, this pathway throughout. Almost every island is linked. Now, I mean, that they're old. That they're, that they're certainly, several hundred years, if not even older than that. But you don't know like any more specific details, about it. And you've never actually come across any of the ones that weren't, that weren't paved and still, fairly used. They tend to connect up some of the, larger towns. So then he continues and he says, the Alfar Way is a ancient road built long before recorded history. And Thulians argue over whether or not it was created by the gods or by a long forgotten civilization. The argument is unnecessary, for we know that the road exists, and we know that it has long forgotten knowledge, and yes, even treasures. He then pauses again, sipping from a cup of what you assume, based on what you can see, you assume it to be mead. So you're just, so he just takes a sip. He's paused again. After he finishes sipping, he just looks up at you and kind of cocks an eyebrow.
I ask him, so as a servant of Torvik Greyhand who keeps dropping his dice, what exactly does this have to do with me personally? Not to be rude.
Well, he says, I have become aware that, of some of your travels, and you have encountered some of these, and then he pauses for a moment and he says, oddities. And he said that, and then once you traveled with Torvik, he says, I believe even more should have become apparent to you that there is some kind of a movement, that is running amiss. He asks you, very briefly, he asks you, were you not curious why the crows did not feed upon the dead of the battlefield?
I know that was unnatural. And it has occurred to me that there seems to be some common thread linking the last few adventures I've had, specifically the gray mist present in all these encounters, as well as the gray, oddly, almost unnaturally desiccated quality of corpses left behind. And as you mentioned, the fact that the carrion would not feed upon them. And finally, the fact that this last quality that I've seen upon the dead seems to be shared by my lord, Torvik Greyhand. Though I do not wish to speak ill of my lord at all. He is very generous and is a fair and noble man of great honor, who I'm happy to serve. But it occurs to me that surely you're getting at something that I've surmised for myself. There is some common connecting thread. There is something deeper going on here.
Okay. You can make a skill check. And you're going to make a skill check on your social skill. So it's a charisma -2. In your case, just a -1.
Yeah. That's a 6.
You're rolling terrible today.
Yeah, I am.
All right. Okay.
Oh, wait. You said it's a -1, so 4, 7, 8, 7. 7.
All right. Yeah, it's. Let's see. He says, he listens to it, to what you said, pretty attentively. And then he simply says, yeah, Torvik has served me for a number of years, and he is trusted insofar that what he has asked does not directly or irrevocably bring into question his honor. He tends to, adhere to my requests. And that's all he says. So he doesn't really respond to anything that you just said, other than just Torvik has worked with him for a number of years and he trusts him.
Then I will say to him, if I may ask, why have you summoned me specifically? I'm merely one of his captains.
He says, because you have seen some of these odd creatures now on 2 occasions that I've been made aware of. And he says you have encountered and defeated a Commission sorcerer far to the north. And I believe that there is a connection between, this sorcerer, the occurrences up in the Scanfan Islands, the occurrences at this outpost that Torvik had set out to raid and to bring back the items to me. And he says that is still an unresolved question that I have, is to, the true nature, of both the item that is missing and those responsible for either. And then he kind of hesitates or pauses, and then he says, possibly unearthed that item. He said the key is to retrieve the item. And Torvik stated that you, along with several men, should be capable of doing just that.
I feel that Torvik, due to his epithet, Greyhand, has been personally afflicted by whatever is going on here. Torvik has been a generous lord to me. I have served him honorably, and he has rewarded me well. If he has done so for you, and if I can help him in some way, I'm happy to serve any way I can.
He just nods and he says, then be prepared tomorrow morning to set sail with Torvik. Torvik will have several men, very capable men, to accompany you on your journey. He says, I suggest that on the remainder of this day, you secure some equipment that you might feel you need. And then he says, I have already placed in Torvik's care some items that I think you and your group will potentially need if you do have to delve, underground or in places that are steeped in darkness.
Will we have plenty of rope?
You're asking that, or you're just?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. He says, you will have whatever gear that you feel that you need. He says, although I have supplied Torvik with quite a bit, and he being as experienced as he is, he kind of knows what is necessary. But if there's anything else that you need, you can approach him and see what else he can secure for you.
How will we be on, and I don't mean to ask anything of you personally, but how will we be provisioned on food and water rations?
He says, all is already on Torvik's ship. He says, as you recall, the trip was 3 days by sail, and he says you'll have more than enough provisions to accompany you for at least 2 weeks' time.
Very well. Then I'll ask no more of you, excuse me, or of my lord. I will simply do his bidding and fight and serve to the best of my ability at his side.
Okay. So he thanks you for agreeing to go, and he wishes you luck, and he expects. He says, "I expect the result I'm hoping for," and that's kind of like all he really says. He then puts his head down to his books and his work that he was on, and that's pretty much it, unless you have something else.
I'm ready to go kill stuff.
Okay, so you depart his home, and you go back into the the town area, and it's at this point it's still like late morning, probably, an hour or so before noon. And so you do have a full day, ahead of you.
Since we're already provisioned, will go ahead and find Torvik, ask him what ship he wants me on, and when we'll depart.
Yeah, he tells you that you're set to depart tomorrow. He says that Brill had told him that the weather pattern and the weather should be more suitable for travel tomorrow. He says it's been clearing up the last day or two as it is anyway. So he said now he brings you onto the ship and he actually shows you the provision the provision crates that were set aside for you guys. And he does say, and it is you guys. He says you'll be accompanied by 5 very capable warriors. He says these men are all these men are all suitable to be bodyguards of chieftains or possibly even kings. And he says, and they're all in the direct employ of Brill, the sorcerer.
And so I asked,
yeah. So when you look in there, you notice that there are I mean there's some like basic weapons and stuff like that. You're probably carrying more suitable gear, your own personal gear anyway. But there are some other items there. Yes, there is rope and there's other, like jars or flasks that, you don't quite know what they are. There's torches. All right. That, they're very high quality. They're not just a stick with a rag wrapped around them. They look like they're long-term, slow burning torches, so, and there's several of them. So there's probably about 15 of them. So enough for one person to probably have a torch, burning, several long hours worth of burning. As far as rope, there's certainly enough rope in there for each person. Each person to have, a good length of rope, probably about 15 feet of rope, or however that works out in meters. Probably like 6 meters of rope. So you're pretty satisfied with the contents of the cases? Are you there? Or you froze up?
Nope, I'm here.
Yeah.
So I asked Torvik, so if I may ask, my lord, what exactly is our mission today? And when do we set sail?
Yeah, he said we're going to set sail tomorrow. He says I'm going to drop you off at the location of the outpost that we had gone to, several weeks ago. and he says, I'm going to set you and the five, your five companions down there. He says, I am going to continue up north and go back to the Scampan Islands, or Scanfan, actually, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so the Scamfan Islands, and get in touch with the druid that you had spoken to previously. I'm going to actually bring him back down to Grand. I mean, not Grand Meadow, down to Stem Sound to meet with Brill. Because if you do retrieve the item, then the druid will be, is believed to be, an important insight into the item, since he had inspected it when you had turned it over.
Very well.
Now, you're kind of surprised that, like, Torvik knows quite a bit about your earlier adventures. So, and like, you don't recall seeing Torvik back in that earlier adventure, but you do know that, you got on board a ship and you sailed, along with the druid down south. All right. But when you were dropped off in Stem Sound, you don't know at what point the druid had disembarked, because you had made several stops, along the way. So Torvik, like I said, Torvik seems to have known, quite a bit of what transpired, in that town that you were in up north. It's slipping my mind. It's late.
Yeah, it's like 11:15 there, isn't it?
Yeah. So, what do you? I mean, you're going to inquire about anything at this point, or are you just going to prepare for?
I'm thinking we'll turn in and get some rest for the night, and then we'll
Okay.
in the morning.
Yeah. All right. So you rest up for the night, and the next morning at sunrise, you leave your quarters, you go to the ship, and you board the ship, and you're introduced by Torvik to the men that are going to accompany you. It's 5 men, all in their mid to late 20s. They're wearing cuirasses with caps. So they're fairly heavily armored, and they're all carrying melee weapons, although they do have throwing axes. So they're all uniformed the same way. So they're all dressed the same way. They're wearing the same the same armor. They're so they kind of having a bearing that seems to be that they're accustomed to working together.
An air of officiality.
Yes, an air of officiality, an air of just being a seasoned warriors that are accustomed to working together. And Torvik, when he introduces you to them, he tells you that, or he tells them actually, that you will be their commander, and that he places his full trust in you. He retells some of the story of your navigation skills and your bravery, in combat at the fight at the hall, that you were raiding, the outpost that you were raiding. So yeah, he doesn't have any knowledge of your adventure, up to the north, other than after you met with the, brought that druid back to the village. So, so he doesn't know about those earlier exploits, but he certainly knows about the ones that you were, with him, from, well, fighting the Kraken as well, and the other ship of, mercenaries, hunting you guys down. So they all greet you and everything. They, bow their heads and, say it'll be a pleasure to serve with you. And Torvik then tells, his crew to cast off. He's since replaced you with, another person up there in the crow's nest. You're now a passenger and not a member of his crew. You're, going to be, on your own separate mission.
Basically in command of this ship.
What's that?
Basically in command of this ship.
No, he's in command. He's only taking one ship with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not going with his. Yeah. So you're just, you're just hanging out on his ship. You're a passenger on his ship.
I'm part of a separate group.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So now, like I said, as you recall, the last time you traveled, it took you about 3 days to get to the location that you're going to. And I'm just making a few. The first day is fairly uneventful. The weather, as we stated, during this first time was clear, or clearing, and the season is pretty, pretty well for traveling. Occasional rains, but it does often rain, often in in Thule, especially down near the southern portions of the islands. And but as you start making your way towards the middle sections, that's where the skies are getting a little bit clearer. And the first night is uneventful as far as that. The next morning, you wake up to clear skies, and a light breeze. So clear skies and a light breeze. So you're all pretty, pretty happy with the fact that, at least you're not hitting rough seas, and, so far it's been pretty uneventful as far as, traveling up north. Okay. In the late afternoon on the second day, you hear some, some shouting, and someone has spotted a ship. All right, so they spotted a ship in the distance, and the ship is not the ship is also traveling north, but it's on a a slightly different different tack than you guys are. Like, you guys are already starting to move in towards the towards the island shoreline, and this other ship seems to be veering out the other direction.
I'd say I approach Torvik and ask him, what do you make of them?
He says, well, it's too far to actually make out its markings, he says, and it seems to be going on a different, going towards a different direction than we are. He says, other than, vaguely north. He said, we have another mission at hand, and so we're not going to look to engage or inspect, anyone else.
Very well.
All right.
Just mention to him, you don't think there'd be any more of those overzealous pirate hunters we encountered, do you?
He says, well, if they were, they would be heading towards our direction, and they don't seem to be. He says, perhaps they didn't even spot us. He says, we're just going to keep on going and keep an eye. He says, it's almost dusk as it is, so any kind of pursuit at nighttime would be kind of fruitless at this point.
Very well.
All right. I'm not rolling well either. All right. So now you're on the morning of the third day, and you wake up to 14. All right, so now it's cloudy. I'm basically using the wind and weather charts that come in the the DM's packet or the Mythmaster packet. So there's 12 pages of of various charts and skills and everything. So that's what I'm referring to as far as the weather conditions. And the wind strength is an 11. It's cloudy, but it's still moderately, it's a moderate breeze. So moderate breeze is around 11 to 16 knots, just for people who want to know. And it's a +1. It's a +1 difficulty setting for navigation and sailing skills. So based on weather and wind conditions and everything, you can actually get bonuses to or negatives to your various ship handling skills.
Excuse me.
Okay. And later on in that afternoon, fairly early on in the afternoon, you actually start spotting the beachhead that looks, eerily familiar to you.
From the last time we were here to raid here, and it seemed like we had been beaten to the punch, so to speak.
Yeah. So as you, as Torvik drops anchor, you guys set a longboat, you know, into the water along with your chest of goods, you know, your chest of supplies and everything, and he fills up a second one with another cache of you know, supplies and additional weapons and things like that. And you know, you and your group of five, so the six of you are brought to shore, and the you know, the outpost structure looks like it's even more, you know, more collapsed than it was the last time. You know, so it's you know, more run down. Nothing seems to have inhabited it as you're approaching it. You know, so certainly no people around it, no, you know, and very eerily quiet. You know, if you're going to enter in with your, you know, your group of people. I mean, Torvik goes, you know, goes ashore along with you as well.
So we've already like entered into the fortress.
Well, that's up to you.
Now this is the place where it looked like the dog-like creatures
Yes.
had burrowed in under the seaport entrance.
Yeah, under the gate. Yes, they burrowed in under the gate, and then they, you know, they worked their way through the longhouse, the, you know, the entryway of that. That actually dug their way underneath that as well. And then, you know, you're assuming once inside, they, you know, they had done significant amount of damage to the, you know, to the doors in order to, you know, pry them open so that, you know, others could come in, or, you know, like, you don't really know, you didn't see this combat, you didn't even see the, you know, you, I believe, if we had the timing right, you came like maybe a month after that attack had occurred. So there wasn't very much around that you could spot. It wasn't like the last, you know, raided village that you encountered that had, you know, only a couple of days had passed from the
Yeah,
time that you got there. Yeah.
it was like a week or two.
Yeah. So,
So I asked Torvik, are we going to go in through the side entrance, or are we going to go ahead and go in through the front door? And are we looking for something similar to the statue or totem we found at the other village?
he says, well, he said, originally he says, what you discovered was a totem, and contained within that totem was the small the statue or monolith or whatever you want to call it, that was contained inside it. He says that is what the druid and I had returned, you know, returned down south. He said, now, when we brought it to this outpost and left it here, he said, and then later on we returned, the casing was, you know, was opened. Yeah, and whatever was inside, you know, is now missing. And what we had brought back, you know, he's referring to you and he, what we had brought back was just the casing. he says, we have no idea what the contents of it were, but it seems that whatever attacked this place knew exactly what they were looking for, and they removed the contents.
So we're looking for a common thread. We're looking for whatever was inside that casing, and we're thinking it's linked to the strange statue that we found hidden inside the totem at the other village that was raided.
Yes.
So we're coming back here to see if we can find what was inside that casing.
Yes.
Thread to all this.
Yes.
Very well. So.
All right. So you're now, obviously, this is already late in the, it's a later part of the, early evening, it's a later part of the evening, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And so Torvik said that he's going to return to his ship, and he's going to weigh anchor in the morning, and you and your guys can secure this place, for the evening, and set out looking for clues afterwards, in the morning. So he basically says good luck, and he starts heading towards the longboats to bring him back to his ship.
There are 6 of us here total.
Yes, there's 6 of you total.
All right. I will post one to the north, one to the
basically. Well, so you're going to be like you're inside the main building, or are you out in the courtyard area, or are you outside of the fence? Like, so there's a fence line, and this is a typical outpost, setup.
Like a ring fort.
Yes, it's.
Okay. I want 4 people,
and
I want one of them looking in each cardinal direction. Myself and the remaining person will rest for a few hours, and after a few hours, we will switch out, and another 2 people will come in to have a rest period. But I want someone this evening on lookout in each of the cardinal directions.
Okay. And so that is, basically what you're doing. So you're doing like a rotational,
a
rotational
every 3 hours or so.
Yeah. All right. I'm just looking at they don't have so weird. They don't have all right, let's see. You don't encounter anything like, none of the guard shifts encounter anything during during that first night. It's eerily quiet, like nothing, no animal sounds, no, you hear the sea, water, rushing up onto the onto the land, onto the beach. You do hear birds in the, like water birds, like seagulls and those types of things that are flitting around by the beach. But anywhere's like beyond, like in the immediate area, just beyond the fort, you don't hear or see anything.
And about what time of evening is this?
No, this is early morning now.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is the time that you're going to be set out. You've gone through the first night. So your 3-hour shifts, and nothing was seen, encountered, alerted to, over that night.
Okay, so I'll get everyone together, and there's 6 of us, so I form 3 parties of 2, and I tell everyone, all right, let's not let our Lord down. Torvik has been good to us, so let's make sure we succeed in this for him. I want 3 groups of 2. We're going to go through this village thoroughly. We're going to just comb every inch of it and find what he's looking for.
All right, so you start looking through the you're looking through the fort, the abandoned fort. And I mean, you've been through this place before, with the various groups, and you can make a foraging roll. Now, foraging is an intelligence -2.
Yeah, I have training in that, so that's a +1.
All right, so it's +1.
+1, and I have a +1 to intelligence, so a +2. Okay, I'm rolling better now. 10, 12, +2, 14.
All right, so 14. All right, so yeah, so your group is looking around and everything, and one of your one of your companions there, one of your guards, he comes, calling back to you, and he tells you, Nayal, he says, you need to see this.
Very well, lead the way.
So he says, I was walking around the, perimeter, of the fort, and then he comes to the like there's a rent in the, in the back portion of the portcullis, and as you go through it, he points out, and you can see off in the distance the, the woodlands, and then you can see a section of, several trees that just look like they're stripped down and decayed.
So he's pointing out to that.
Yes, he points out to that, and he says, when I looked over, he says, I was just, scanning it, and I saw these, 3 or 4 trees that are just, there's just dead trees there, but that's the only place that you see, that sign. He says it just caught my eye.
Yeah. Place my hand on his shoulder and I say, "Good eye, my friend. Let's get everyone together. Let's go out and have a closer look at this."
All right, so it's probably only about 50 yards from the fence line, and so it doesn't take you long to get there. Everyone takes their their gear along with them. They have their armor on. They grab their ropes and their torches and everything. So there's enough torches for all three of you to have torches. They basically just gear up as if we're heading out now. You have enough rations. Yeah, and that's one thing they ask you is like how much rations should they actually take? Yeah. Everyone has their rope. Everyone has their their torches. Like I said, there's 3 torches for each of you. Everyone has their the rations. Like I said, you have probably at this point probably another 10 days worth of rations.
All right.
Now that would be very bulky to carry. So you can tell me how much you're actually going to require everybody to carry with them.
I'd say, if it's only 50 yards, let's say everybody takes like 1 day worth.
All right.
And just
all right. So you each take like 1 day's worth of rations, and you head out to you head out this 50 yards and everything, and yeah, you definitely recognize the signs of this graying of the trees and the plant life and everything, the lack of the silence of the woodlands and everything. This is all very reminiscent of your first adventure.
The animals with their natural intuition don't seem to want to have any part of this.
Yeah, and you can see that it's not just these 3 trees. You can see that there's an obvious path going through the woods where this is all this is all affected going further in.
Does this path, as far as the fortress, does this lead back to that seaside entrance where they seem to have dug their way in?
Well, it leads to the fortress. Now, whether or not they, how they actually entered, they could have entered through this, the side. Maybe they entered through several sides at once. There was definitely a break-in the back of the fort, and there was definitely a break-in at the front of the fort. So, they might have actually, those dog-like creatures might have actually attacked it from both sides at the same time, or, however, or they might have attacked it from one side and then exited the other.
Basically, this is the original path of entry.
Yes, you're assuming so, yes.
Then obviously we'll follow this path.
All right, so you start following that path, and it is pretty clear where it's going. So it's a tracking roll, but it's a fairly easy one because it's an easy track to follow. So You can make a tracking attempt that's on intelligence -2.
So -1 for me.
Yes.
Roll big. And I did. 12 -1, 11.
11. All right. So that's good. It was actually a little bit higher because it's an easier tracking to do, or at least a higher quality. All right. Yeah, you only needed a tracking of 6 to follow this thing. That's how easy it basically is. And you guys are tracking for about 3 hours, following it along for about 3 hours time. Now you're not like rushing through it. You know that if you were, running through it, it wouldn't take that, that long at all. But you guys are taking your time, and you can make your next roll. And this is a perception intelligence +0.
Okay, perception, that's a intelligence, that's a +1. Well, I'm rolling better now. Let's see. 9, 11, 12.
Okay. All right. You actually spot a pathway now that has some of that graying around it, but there's definitely a pathway that is a mixture of broken ground and stone. All right, so it's definitely man-made. Although some sections of it seem to have been overgrown by plant life, and then there's some ground has whether it be sediment that had come off the hill during heavy rains or whatever. So some of it is obscured, but you do spot several points of cobblestone that was laid down.
Obviously, we're going to. Is it going kind of uphill?
No, it's on fairly level ground, going, cutting through the wooded area.
All right. Then I go ahead and tell everyone, get your weapons ready. We don't know what we're going to encounter here.
All right.
Let's proceed. I want a group of 2 facing forward. I want a group of 2 facing to either right or left, and a group of 2 advancing with their eyes on our rear flank.
Okay.
Let's get all our directions covered.
All right. So as you're making your way down this, pathway, and you're actually traveling, you're tacking it north, and it's going north by northwest. And as you're passing, along it, and it's certainly overgrown. There's like taller grass. You don't see that graying anymore. And then off to so you're traveling for about another hour, along this path, and then off to your left, you spot there's just something that catches your eye. Once again, a little bit deeper into the woods and some heavy brush, but you spot certainly a rise in the in a land feature, and you can see there's looks like a cave entrance.
So the man that I posted as we advanced in our little column, the man on the left that I posted would have brought that to our attention.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'd say you actually spotted it.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll go that way. And do we have archers?
No, actually, none of these guys are carrying. They're carrying throwing axes.
All right.
Yeah.
I will in this cave entrance, I'll leave 2 to watch our backs, and 4 of us will go in.
Okay. So you approach it, and you could make a perception check as you approach the cave entrance.
All right. So we have +1. Okay, definitely rolling better. That's another 12.
Okay. So you notice actually that it's not actually a cave. All right. There's definitely it looks more like a mine entrance now, as you approach it. So like as soon as you get to the entrance of it, you can see that there's certainly framework on the inside of it that has that's propped it, or secured it up in place. So it's definitely man-made, and you can see the flooring on, at least in the very entry area, is carved into like step-like features.
So kind of a salt mine or something.
Or yeah, it's a mine of some kind, or an entryway into a lower portion of it. But the entryway is definitely man-made.
Can we take a small break as far as recording? Can you edit that out?
No, I'm not quite sure if I stop the broadcast. We might just have to do like a part 2.
Okay, I'll just run to the restroom real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So for people watching while Matt is off, the books that I was mentioning. So the main book that, the core rules is MYFAROG. Oh, I gotta switch the view. There we go. Oh, it still didn't do it backwards. That's weird. But it's very odd. Let's see. Still trying to work out these, Hangouts thing. You know what? I'm holding up the book, and it's showing backwards on my end. Is it showing backwards on your end as well?
No, it looks fine over here.
Oh, it looks fine. All right, so I'm seeing it backwards. That's weird. That's very weird. Let's see. Yeah, no matter what I do, it's backwards.
No, it looks fine here.
Very weird.
Yeah, I was just asking, like, if for your recording purposes, if we could, like, if there's a way, I'm sure that you could fast or rewind to where I first asked for a small break, and then to where I come back, if you can cut that part.
Yeah, no, not that I know of. No.
That's fine.
I'm looking to see cameraman. Broadcast settings as guest, hide their audio. Broadcast large video and scene in mind. This large broadcast area. I'm trying to figure out how to flip the camera view. Turn camera off, microphone off. So under settings. No.
I'm sure there's got to be a way to do that, like before you post it or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of quirky, isn't it?
I'd like to get at least one before we quit and go to a session 2. I'd like to get at least one combat session in.
Oh yeah, no, you will. Yeah, there will be some combat.
Yeah, I know you're not feeling well, and I'm getting hungry. So
yeah, no, you're practically there. So we are going to. So you're going to enter into the into what you believe is to be a mine, and as you start going down into it, you can see that there, it gets darker as you progress down, obviously. So as you start going deeper into it, probably about 30 yards into it, and that's all going, like on a stepwards downwards. The light from outside is starting to become, much more difficult to guide your way through. So your guys ask you, one of your guys asks you if they should, light the torches at this point.
Indeed, yes.
All right, so, and they do, they each light their torches, and they start looking around, and I'm assuming you are as well. And oof, oh, that was a 17. So one of them, and you can make a roll as well. So you can. It's a perception roll.
+1. Yeah, like I said, rolling better now. That's a 10.
Okay. All right. You notice that that as you're getting deeper and deeper into it, it appears that the entryway seemed to be much newer, than the area that you're starting to get into now. And it's just much more roughly hewn where you're at now. And the, the architecture is, is older. Now, the other one of your guys, he actually noticed that there still seems to be a pathway going through here. In other words, that people have recently passed through, or something has recently passed through this area, because it's not dusty, or there's not a lot of there's obvious signs of people having moved through this.
And does this mine follow one path, or does it have branching corridors?
It hasn't gotten to any branching corridors yet. So it started, steadily moving downwards, deeper into it on a straight line, and you haven't gotten to any any corridors yet.
All right. Then let's just advance further then.
All right. So you continue, you continue delving deeper into it. And yeah, it's approximately another like 20 yards or so. And then it begins to open up into a carved out, semicircular room. And there's again, you don't see like any equipment or anything that would indicate that it's a mine. It just looks like it's like an entrance just into a deeper section of, into a deeper section of some kind of a complex, or, an underground complex of some kind.
And so we would be starting to think this is something eerier or more sinister than.
Yes. So
foreboding.
Yeah. So now you're in it's like a semicircular room. All right. And, so it arcs around, but then it hits like a smooth end point, like a drop off. And so as you approach that, you can see that there's a drop down, and you shine your torch down, and you can see that the torchlight kind of goes somewhat downwards, and you spot a ladder that is extending downwards.
All right, I'm going to send two of my guys out to the two I had watching the entryway, and to retrieve the dice that I dropped. No, to ask them if they've seen anything as far as ambush that might determine if something might be coming from behind. And then the two, myself and the other guy, will wait here for a second until they relay them.
All right, so yeah, to go back and like look down the tunnel way that you came from, and they're just keeping an eye on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So they do that. They go, and they're not very far from you at all. It's not a huge room. It's just like I said, a semicircle room with
out to the entrance, ask those guys, hey, is everything all right out here? Do you see anything out of the ordinary?
They just, they're looking, and they can see that there's there's just a step, like a ladder going on down. Now the ladder is like a stone carved, thing. It's not wood, and it's carved in stone, and you can tell that it's just like handed footholds that go down. It does not have like it does not have the handholds, like the bars going down it, or the sides or edge going down it. Just at the very top, there was an area, like a stone area, where you could grab a hold of it at the top, and that's what actually tipped you off that it was there.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is just carved, directly into the rock face.
Yeah, I just meant that the guys the two I had left at the entrance, I sent two back out to them to ask if everything looked okay.
Yeah, no, there's when they come back to you and everything, there's nothing going on back there. So you have what, four guys with you now?
If everything looks okay behind us,
actually 3 guys, I should say.
Yeah, we're gonna get everybody back together. So all 6 will be back together now. and we'll go ahead and start going down this ladder.
All right, so you start going down the ladder, and you go down around like 30 feet or so. You go down about 30 feet, and you hit you reach the floor. And then once everybody has their torches in here, you can see you're in a, for lack of better, like a causeway. So you're like in a tunnel that's going straight, and it's got cobbled floors, and it just shoots out in both directions, as far beyond what your torchlight is showing. So, and you don't you hear you hear a trickle of water, you hear water drops dropping onto the floor. It sounds like you're just in a natural cave system other than the paved floor.
All right, so now that all six are together, we're going to advance forward in the same manner we did, with two up front, two watching our rear, and one to each side watching our flanks. And I instruct everyone every now and then, look above you.
All right. So you guys start making your way down the corridor, and you can make a roll.
All right. What am I rolling for?
Perception.
10.
In the distance, you spot a light that's not coming from your torch's projection.
Then we'll advance forward, and I obviously instruct everyone, make sure to keep looking in all the directions I've assigned, and especially keep an eye above us.
All right. So they start advancing. They have their weapons drawn. They have their, they're all carrying shields. So two of them carry the torches, and then the other three, have their shields ready.
All right.
So you have a torch at the front, a torch at the back. You're someplace, wherever you say that you are. You're up front as well. And are you carrying a torch as well, or
the guy beside me is carrying a torch?
So he's carrying. So two of them have torches, three of them have shields, and you're just making your way down the corridor. And as you're approaching the other light source, you can now make initiative.
with a dexterity of +1. That's a 4.
Okay. So you're going on 4. And let's see. Okay, so as you're going down the corridor, oh, I forgot that. All right. As you're going down towards that, that other light source and everything, you see that a light source from that side comes around from the stationary light source. So somebody with a torch has turned the corner over there, and you see that the person suddenly stops, and shouts off something in a language that you didn't understand. And actually you can make a world lore check.
Let's see. 10 + 1, 11.
Yeah, you just know that it sounds Cometian. So it's in a Cometian language. All right, but you don't understand Cometian, so they said something almost like in a tone that's a very direct, abrupt, like challenging tone.
Urgent. And there's
right.
more than one of them.
Yeah, you believe there's more than one of them. So you guys are immediately set. So that one there, he's actually not going to go first. One of your shield men, he actually moves moves towards him, and as you guys are going, and he's going to attack. So he swings with his long sax at the guy, and he missed. Oh wait, no wait. Hold on a second. I'm not looking at his thing. So, oh no, he hit. All right, so he hit his long sax. That's D6 +1. 5. All right, so he hit the guy, and the other guy shouts off, and you could see two other men come around out of the alcove too. with their weapons drawn, you know, yelling something at you guys. So he goes first. The next highest roll is a 5, which was the guy that just got hit, the guy with that was carrying their torch. Ooh, he rolled terrible. Rolled 5, 7, a 10. That misses all of your guys. Oh, I do need a D12 because you have 6 members. I was thinking I didn't need a D12 because nobody's carrying a weapon. I forgot that you're in a group of 6. That's a 9. So. Right, the last guy in the line. The slowest, so he still missed him though. All right, a 4. You're going to go on a 4.
See, 8, 9 plus an OV of 4 is 13.
A 13. And a 13 is what you need to hit. Now, which weapon are you using?
The axe. So that's just barely what I needed to hit?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like it's a D12
yes,
plus 1 divided by 2.
Yes. Yeah, when you a near no wait. Yeah, even to your DV is a
So that'd be a 3 damage.
yes, so 3 damage. Yeah, so when you hit even to your DV is half damage.
Yeah.
All right. Below your DV is obviously a miss. And then as you go a DV plus 1 or 2 is a no damage modifier. It's a standard hit. And then you need a 3 or a 3 or above in order to increase the amount of damage that you do with melee weapons. You don't apply strength bonuses to damage, but you do apply them to your hit modifier.
Yeah. And that's all
indirectly.
OV.
Right. So you just hit him. You hit him for how much again? 3?
3 total. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you just went now. One of your other guys goes. Because the 6 went, the 4 goes. He missed.
Are we sticking to our same rule of if you want to switch weapons without a penalty, you need to declare it at the
yes, if you want to switch weapons, right. Now the 3, so one of your guys goes, he missed. One of theirs goes, he missed. Now the 2 and the 2. 4, 10. Oh, that's a hit. So your guy just hit with a 4, 10, 15. So that's a plus 2. That's a regular hit. 5, 6. You notice these guys are not wearing armor. They're just wearing clothing. All right. And he counterattacks. And he's got a plus 3. So that's 5, 10, 13. He hit. Oof, 6. But you guys are wearing armor. So
FYI, my defensive value is 13 with an armor value of 3, so 16 total.
No, it's a 13 to hit you, but if they do hit you, you have a 3 reduction in damage. Yeah. Which is actually better than it just being harder to hit you, because it automatically soaks up 3 points of damage. I believe the 2s went. Now they're just the 1. All right, and oh my God, he rolled high. At least he's one of yours. So he rolled. Wow, he rolled really high. He rolled a 20. He rolled a 20, which is a very good hit. So he's going to do +4. So really +5. So he did 10 points of damage against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against number 6. So you notice that the one of the guys with the shield, he comes in at one of the other, one of these commissions that, that had turned the corner, after the guy with the torchlight. He kind of rushed in on him, and he raised his shield up, almost like more like a distracting kind of move, and then came in with his sword and, just cut the guy right across the, right across the ribs. And it was a pretty solid, like, hit, like you actually heard it, like, crack a bone as it was going in, and the guy kind of, the guy obviously hollered out. And let's see.
With that,
so when I do, so if you're watching this, when I do, anytime you hit 4 or better than needed, that's when I use the, the bleed and the shock check. I know in the original rules, in the standard way, you're supposed to roll it every time, and check for shock and bleed. But I don't do that because it's just too much dice rolling, especially when you're handling, so many, so many NPCs, and, so it just becomes very cumbersome. So I wait until you have a +4 or higher to hit in order to check for it. And the checks for, for cuts and shock is a 3d6 roll. And basically anything below a 10 is not going to cause an effect. I'm sorry, not below a 10, anything greater than a 10. So he actually rolled a 16, so he's not going to cause a cut. And his shock, he rolled a 10, which is also, the number is greater than or equal to 10 or higher. You don't do any extra effect. You want to roll lower. All right, so it's the next round. We'll keep initiative to where it was.
Yeah.
All right. So
weapon for simplicity.
Yeah. And we're going to. So the first is your first guy, and he rolled.
As far as that goes, if anyone wants to switch weapons, do you want to just have that person roll initiative again?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. That way we don't have to go through initiative for everyone else.
Yeah, it doesn't. All right, so he's going to head for.
Just like we said, declare it at the beginning of a combat round or suffer.
Yes. Yeah, if any, if there's any need to switch, we'll discuss it. They're all carrying the same kind of weapons. You're kind of in the dark. You're kind of, you know, in close quarters. So, you know, throwing axes might not be the best weapon to be using at this point. All right, he hit. 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He just hit, barely hit. And let's see who he hit. Oh, he hit you. All right, so they're using long saxes as well. So he did 3 minus. That's a 4 total minus and cut in half. 2 points. He did 2 points to you. So he hits you, but your armor, your armor, ends up absorbing it. You know, your armor just deflects it off, and it is your turn.
And I still managed to throw it off the...
Proper.
Yeah.
I told you on paper. Roll it on paper.
Play it as... Oh, my God. 12, 16, 20.
20. So a 20 is
death.
It's +7, so you're going to do +4 damage. It's
so +5 total since I'm using a D12.
Yes.
So death. 7 + 5, that's 12?
Yes. All right.
Death.
Yeah, you definitely obliterated that guy. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. 1 is... I got to make a chart for this thing instead of having it at the beginning of a module, adventure. 2 hit.
For anyone watching, the long axe is a wonderful weapon.
Yeah. The long axe is, you know what? I don't have it there. I think a 1 is a head hit. Yes. So you hit him in the head. All right. Bringing him to, essentially negative. What'd you do? 12? You brought him to a -6 with that hit.
Yeah.
And he's just wearing like a cloth cowl, on him, so it literally just splits right through his skull and he goes down. And he was actually the next to go. So
not anymore.
Opportunity, yeah. It's a pretty opportune time for you to, smack him down. So the 4s are going to go. And that's a 9, 10. Well, that's a big hit for him too. Oof. So he did 10, 16. He rolled a 16. So that's going to be plus, that's a 3. So that's 3 more than he needs. Oh, so that's only a +1. So he rolled, and then it's so 8 points of damage. Oh, either one of these 2 guys. Let's see who he hit. So there's only 2 of them left. And he hit the first one. So he did 8 points of damage. He brought him down to -1. And he hit him in the torso. So this guy here with his long sax, he was actually the one with the torch. So he also uses kind of the very similar move. Like he distracts with the torch and then he thrusts in and just, gets the guy right through the, the lower portion of the sternum, just, and then just withdraws it out. Yeah. So it's like he kind of did a move with the, like flashed the torch in front of him, and as the guy, veered away, that's where he thrusts and then just withdraws the blade, very quickly. And, sacks are generally, a combination. They're generally more of a chopping blade, but they do have a very angular front point to them. So it's still an effective thrusting weapon as well. So that guy is down. I'm going to have this third one make a morale check. So morale checks, the way that, the way that the game system works is that you're supposed to do a morale check at the, at the start of, a combat round. So the reason why I do it, more circumstantially. So, you look for an event that's taking place during the combat, whether it's, player character getting a severe wound, and that could shake the morale of either, him or herself, plus whatever, henchmen they have with them. If you lose a party member, getting killed, that's going to, generate a morale check. And against NPCs, once a greater number of the NPCs is killed off, then I have the NPCs make a morale check as well. So morale check is a straight 3d6 roll. So they rolled a 12. And we go here, and the result is, so anything a 12. Now this one works the exact opposite. Greater than a 9 is no consequence. So his morale hasn't been shaken yet. He's either a zealot or a complete idiot. And so now we have the 2 3s, which is him himself as well. And he rolled poorly, even with his pluses. And he's going to get hit. That's a 9, 10. Yeah, it's a 15. So he's going to take... Oh, he didn't take that much damage, though. He was lucky. So 15 is a +2, so it's a regular hit. And it's 2 points of damage. So he's actually still up. And now the 2s go. And there's only 1 2 on your side. He rolled a 10, 12, 17 is a +4. That's a good hit. He rolled 3, 4 points of damage, and he killed that guy. That's a leg hit. And he was the rear torch bearer. So the rear torch bearer has come up and he attacked the last remaining guy, and he caught him right in the leg. And the fact that he he killed the guy with a leg shot, he most likely severed it in such a way that the guy is just, rapidly bleeds out. And, so you now have three dead people laying on the ground ahead of you. And like the alcove that they were in, and the, between the lighting of the alcove and then, the torches that you guys are holding, you can see that they, they're all Cometians. They're all, they're wearing these robes, and the robes have various runes, embroidered into them. And they're, again, you can make a crafting roll.
Crafting's intelligence, isn't it?
Yes, it's intelligence -5 if you're not trained in it.
Oh, so it's -4. That's like, wow.
A negative?
That's 1.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, you really can't make anything out of the, from the, the construction of the robes, or, any of the meaning of them, or, like the runes on them. I mean, you would do a separate rune, check for that. But, I mean, you can't really make out even the material, of what they're made of. So you're just not familiar with that kind of craftsmanship. So it might be an indicator of either you don't know what you're, looking at, or the fact that it is so foreign that, you just have no clue. So, what are you going to do at this point? So you have these three dead guys.
There are 6 of them total, aren't there? Or
no, you're 6 total. They were only 3.
So they're all dead.
Yeah, they're all dead. Yeah.
Let's have everyone. Is it just an alcove, or does it go in further to another chamber?
Yeah, there's an iron-bound door.
All right. Let's have. Do we have anyone who's more skilled in rune lore than I am?
Most likely. I mean, rune lore is like you're traveling with all warriors. I mean, the only people that start with rune lore are sorcerers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's
what we'll do is let's go inspect the iron gate, but we're gonna take the body of the leader of these guys back with us.
To where?
Back to Torvik. Yeah.
All right. So, well, the door is
making a note of that. When all is said and done, we're going to drag that body back and let the people more knowledgeable than us have a look at him.
Okay. The door is, yeah. So the door itself is locked. Oh, I just lost my die. The door itself is locked. It has it does have it has a keyhole on this side.
Go look at the bodies and see if we can see if anyone's carrying a key.
Yes, they are. All right. The one of them is.
I don't even need to make a check for that.
No, there's no, it's pretty easy to search the dead. It's not like he has it, swallowed down his throat or up the other end. So yeah. So, he just had it in a
people up. We could probably look for it there.
Yeah. No, he just had it in a like an inner pocket of his robe. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So what are you going to do?
Unlock the door. You
right.
still have torches, right?
Say again? Yeah, you still have torches.
All right. We'll proceed in cautiously.
All right. So you unlock the door and cautiously tells me stealth. So you could try to make a stealth check. Now, your other, your other 6 guys, they're wearing like fairly heavy, armor.
Yeah.
They're not exactly the most silent of, guys. They're all carrying shields and armor and,
Then why don't I have them stay back? And since I'm wearing the quieter leather armor, I'll go.
Yeah, you can try to just poke their head in.
So that'll be a +1 for me.
Yes.
With my dexterity. Sorry, with my dexterity, that was 11, 14, 15.
15. That is a very good stealth roll. So yeah, like you unlock the door and you enter in. And it is it's another room. And you notice another 3 individuals. Now they don't like immediately turn and look. It's like they and they're a good distance away. So as you open it up and enter in, you notice one of them, like he happened to be like down, and then he turns and he turns around and he starts shouting. And again, the other 2 start rushing forward. So you didn't quite catch them by surprise, but they looked like they were doing something first. And then as you came in, they spotted you. So even with your stealth check, it's like they were not completely prepared for your entry, the way in. So they didn't surprise you. You didn't get a chance to really surprise them. They probably heard some of the combat even through the heavy door from the other side. They just might not have expected that you guys would either, win or come through or whatever.
And they may not know that I have 5 other guys.
Yeah, that too. They might just see you, but they're so as you come in, they spot you, and you call back to your guys, and you all kind of rush into the room. Okay. So it's initiative, but you're going to have a bonus of a +2.
And with my dexterity, that's a +3.
Yeah.
So 6 total.
All right, 6 total. All right, so now you have a 6. And they are going to have... Ooh, I almost lost that. So this one's a 4. This one's a 1. He was really taken off by surprise. This one is a 3. Yeah, he's going to take time. All right. So you're going to go first. Oh, geez. I forgot yours. Your 6 guys. A 6, a 3, a 2, a 4, and a 3. All right. You're all set.
That actually does help. 12.
All right. 12.
Yeah. Oh.
That is a miss.
Oh, man.
Yeah. These guys are fairly experienced, actually. Like you've noticed from just like how they were, fighting and everything. They're not, they're at least veterans of combat. Almost the equivalent of yourself and your guys. Actually, your guys are probably a little bit more experienced than you. All right, so you missed. So let's see. You were a 6. Oh, this guy's a 6 as well. But he missed. Yeah, the guy with the torch missed. Now, let's see. 4s are going to go. So they have 1 4, and you have 1 4. God damn, your guy blasted him. That's a 16 plus that's 21. You just rolled a 21. All right, so +21 is 8 points above what they need to hit. That's a +6 damage. All right. And then he attacks. And he's going to hit 10, 11. The +4. So that is a good hit. 6, 7. -3 is a total of a 4. Okay. The 3, the 2, 2 3s, 1 2, and then they go. It's a hit. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17 +4. That's a +1. Oof. You guys hammer damage. One of their guys just went down.
Cool.
And he missed. So as they were both simultaneously swinging at each other, you know, your guy again, the one with the torch, you know, just like thrust it in front of him, you know, again in his, you know, face as the other guy was swinging, and he just managed to, you know, come in and catch him in the torso, you know, killing him with that shot. And crap. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a miss. And their last one. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nope, that just, oh, that's a bare miss. So 3, 2, it's going to take up armor. So he hit, but he hit the armor. All right, next round.
And we can keep initiative because I'm keeping.
Yeah, we'll keep initiative because they only lost one, so it's not going to shock them just yet.
All right, so who's going?
Yours was a 6, right? Yeah, so you're going to go first.
Yeah, I have a 6.
Yeah.
Let's see, 9, 10, 14.
14, and yes, that's a hit.
Regular hit?
Yes, it's a regular hit.
Okay, so it's a D12 plus 1. 8.
8. All right. That's a pretty solid hit on that guy. And now the guy with the torch rolls a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's a +4, +1 damage. Let's see. No, he didn't do that much damage. He does 5. So he hit that guy. The 4s go. So that guy's a 1. That guy's a 3. 1, 4. 6, 15, 20. +7. +7 is a +4. 8 points of damage. Let's see who he was attacking. He was attacking that guy. Another one of the minions, like the 2 guys that came forward, those are who, you know, who were attacked and killed. And the one guy, which you assume is the leader, was hanging back, and he was doing something. And at this point, you see something like kind of almost like materialize in front of you, you know, in front of your group and everything. And you all have to make now you're going to make a morale check.
Is that 3d6?
That's 3d6.
Do I have any is morale?
No, there's no, unless you have a talent. If you don't have a specific talent for morale checks,
what
There's
would
also there's a class effect on it, so
fighter?
warriors do get a +2.
Okay, so that'll be a. Does fighter figure into that? The +1 to fighter.
Well, this is what it says. It says it's your whatever your strength plus is. So if you have a strength bonus for warriors and berserkers, you're going to get a +1 or plus whatever your strength bonus is. So what's your strength bonus?
My strength modification is +1.
Yeah, so you're going to get a +1.
Okay. And fighter doesn't, the +1 to fighter doesn't figure into that?
No, that's just a +1 to melee.
It'll be a 9 total.
A 9 total. So there's no consequence. So you're good there. Let's test your guys here. That's a 9, so he's good. That's a 12, he's good. That's 11, he's good. That's an 8, 9, 10, 11, he's good. And that is an 8 +1, 9. Wow. All right, so you all made your morale check. Why don't you do let's see if you do a world lore.
Now, with world lore, since it's classified as intelligence and I have training, with my training +1, do I add the intelligence +1 to that as well?
Yes.
Okay,
so it's +2 total.
Okay, so 8, 9, 11.
All right, when you see this thing like form up and everything, you let me read a description for you. All right, so you think that you're facing, although you've never seen one before, but you just kind of know of their rumor, like you've heard stories of them, and you think that it's an incorporeal troll of some kind. It's basically like a shadow creature. All right, so we go back to initiative where it was, because you guys all made your rolls, and Actually, we're going to re-roll initiative at that point. Yeah, his materialization is just going to throw everything off. So,
okay, 7 total.
All right. Well, all right. And I'm going to keep these. So you're going to go first. Now, which are you attacking? The cult leader or the
thing?
The thing?
Fucking or not. Let's see. 11.
11 is you miss it. All right. The cult leader and your torchman attack at the same time. The cult leader missed, and so did your torchman. So now we go to the 4. 1, 4. He rolled a 10, 12, 13, and 14. He's going to hit. Let's see who he went after. He went after the leader. Does 5 points of damage. So he hit the leader. As soon as he hits the leader, the leader starts, he starts shouting back, shouting out at these, this creature. And he starts trying to like back away, so just like one hit on him. And he was, he pretty much, looking to get out from what you can see.
The cult leader.
Yeah. 3 goes. You have 2 3s actually. So here are the 9, 10, 11. 15. He hits. He also hits the leader. Oh, that's not going to make him happy. 5, 6. So he hits him. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. He's going to hit for just 2 points, 3 points on the leader. Everybody's on the leader here. Well, you like vastly outnumber them at this point. All right. Your 2 goes. Wow. 12. That's going to be plus. That's going to be +1 damage. 7 points. So this guy here, which guy was that? All right, so this guy here with the sword and shield, he goes up to the shadow, and he plants a shot dead to the torso of this thing, and it just passes right through. So it and the thing doesn't even like react to it at all. It just like goes right through him. So his weapon, even though it was looked like it would have been a solid hit, actually did no damage whatsoever. All right, it is the, oh shit, I lost a page. Here we go. All right. And it actually missed. So it's next round. So this, yeah, so the leader's trying to escape. This shadow thing is apparently invulnerable. And you go next.
Is there any kind of like statue or totem or anything else in the room?
Well, there was something at the, you know, where they were, you know, standing by. There's like a table over there. And if you make a perception check.
Okay. All threes. Is that anything like if
A 6? Oh, plus
well, it's
no, it's not anything special now.
Okay, so a 9 plus 1 for intelligence, 10.
So 10. So 10. All right. So you look over at where they were, you know, the table that they were at when you first entered in, you know, and you do see, you know, you do see a number of items on the table, including some, you know, some burning candles and you do see what looks like a small statue, all right, in the center of the table.
All right, so I'd like to attack that.
All right, so you're gonna, you know, go over towards the statue to, you know, hit the statue. Okay.
Do I need to roll for hit?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh wow, that was almost a natural 18. Let's see, 12, 17 plus 4, 21. I'm pretty sure I hit that thing.
Yeah. All right, so you hit the statue.
Like obliterated it.
How much damage?
Okay. Do I get what's my bonus on that?
Well, you only needed a 10 to hit it. That's like a standard, you know, standard roll. So you did 11, 11 above. So 11 above is going to be a plus. It's a perfect hit. It's a plus 10 damage.
Okay, and then so 14, and it's a D12 plus 1, so 15 total.
Yeah. 15 total?
Yeah.
All right. So you know, you definitely like smack the thing off the, you know, off the table, you know, out of the ring of the candles, and it whacks up against the wall and then clatters onto the floor. You notice that the shadow like kind of like turns and you know, at first it looks to come towards you. All right. But then it stays away from the table. You make another perception check.
All right.
A 10. All right. You also notice that as it turns its attention towards you and starts coming at you, it then stops before it gets to the table. And then you also notice that it veered away from your guy holding the torch as well. All right. And actually it veered much more severely or, abruptly away from the torchlight.
Okay, so me hitting the statue definitely affected it in some way.
Yes, it got its attention.
And 2, it doesn't like the light.
Yes. So that's what you.
Okay, so I'm instructing anyone with a torch to get their light right up in its face.
Yeah. So your other torch bearer, he actually starts, going towards the thing with his, let's see who's going to move next anyway. This was a new combat round. He's going to attack, and yeah, so he's your front torch man. So he's going to start backing the thing away from you with a torch. The second guy is this guy. He doesn't have a torch. That's an 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. He hit the leader. One of your shield guys actually just, as the leader was trying to run off, one of your shield guys happened to be like behind him, like the guy was walking backwards away from you guys, and he was already positioned behind him. So he just came down with his sword right across his shoulder, and basically lopped his arm off at the shoulder. And you can see the guy screams, and he topples down to one hand and on his knees, and he hits the ground, and he's just bleeding out. Your next torch guy, so he positions himself too. So now, between the two of them, they can actually, corral the shadow, away from wherever you want. I mean, you have to tell them what you want them to do, but they can certainly keep it away from where everybody else is now.
I want them to surround him with light, with torchlight. Surround him.
All right, so your other guys will have to take out their torches and light their torches. All right, so they start dropping their, they drop their shields, and they, pick up their torches, and they start lighting their torches. And so now, yes, you can keep this thing surrounded inside, inside the, light, where it cannot escape in any one direction. And it just kind of hunkers down into a, into a small, viscous orb type thing. You know, you could see its glowing red eyes, but it's just like incapacitated by, you know, the fact that there's no place for it to go. It's trapped in the light.
Then I'm going to go and try to smash that statue.
All right. Now, so when you get to the statue, you know, so you pick it up off the floor and make another perception check.
Well, that's a good one. 10, 15, 16 total.
16 total. You start thinking to yourself, what if this statue is what Brill wants you to bring back?
Ah. Probably shouldn't smash it.
Yeah. You essentially have at this point the shadow is subdued, trapped inside the torchlight. You have the, you know, this guy is dead. You know, his other two guards are dead. You know, you have other things at this table, and you have the statue.
Let's form a wall of torchlight and see what happens if we back out slowly with the statue. I'm holding the statue and I'm backing out, exiting, covered by a wall of torchlight.
All right. Yeah, you guys can certainly manage that because you know, you can form a wall, and as you start like walking away, you see the shadow finally gets up off the ground and it starts drifting in the opposite direction, away from the torchlight.
All right, at this point, I will pocket the statue. I want them to form a ring, back it into a corner, form a ring of torchlight around it, but leave a space where I can enter.
Around what?
Around the entity.
Oh no, it's like when you backed away, I mean, you won't be able to form that circle up around it again. It's going to flee.
Oh, it like just
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It will. Yeah.
Then let's just leave with the statue because I think.
All right. All right. So yeah, you keep your cordon of torches up around you as as you exit, and you start going up the tunnel way where you had gone, come from, and you get to the ladder section, and you guys start climbing up, and you manage with the you can climb up and hold the torch at the same time, as long as you don't have anything else in your hands, obviously.
Yeah.
So one person going up is going to go up, essentially unarmed, but once they're on top, then they can rearm themselves and keep a torchlight on top. And, the next person comes up the same way. Eventually you'll all get up there and still remain within, a light source, once you get to the very top. And then you move on out and you're outside in daylight.
And nothing appears to be happening to us. Everybody's okay.
You only had one person got injured, but he's he's not anywhere near death or anything like that. He's got a like two fairly minor wounds.
All right, then let's go ahead and get this thing back to Torvik.
All right. So you guys head on back to, it took you about 3 hours or 4 hours to get here, and it'll take you a little bit less time going back because you're probably not moving as cautiously, and you kind of know where you're going at this point, and you'll get back to the fort in by the late afternoon, probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right, so we get back to Torvik. I'll report to him, tell him in detail everything that happened, and present him with the statue.
Okay, and
healing for the guy that's injured.
Say again?
Obviously, get healing for the guy that's injured.
Yeah. All right, so what Torvik says is that so he is going to send you, to he's going to take you up to the first town, and then you guys are going to get onto a ship and head back down to Stem Sound as he continues going forward to he goes forward to the to Cosgrove. That's where you guys were initially to get the druid.
And so then in this other town, I'm going to basically probably take this to Brill.
Yes, you're going to, in the other town, you and your group and a few of Torvik's guys, you all go on to you all get onto a ship. Torvik pays for your passage to go back down, and you return to Brill as Torvik heads on north. Now, it's going to be, that this passage that Torvik is going to go, it's going to be at least 10 days before he comes back. So you're going to have some time, just waiting for his return with the druid before you really get to any real closure on this thing. So, but when you return to Brill, he does he does take the statue from you, and your personal reward all right, let's see.
We had like 4 or 5 combat rounds, didn't we?
Overall?
Yeah.
Geez. I'd say you had about 20 successful skill checks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So 20 successful skill checks would be 500 points. Now we've been playing for been playing almost 4 hours. So that would be another 400. Mission success is another 150.
So 400 and 150.
So that's 550. So you're at 1,050 experience points.
What about combat?
That included combat. That included all the skill checks. Yeah.
Okay.
And role playing is another 50. So that's an even 12. That's an even 12. No, that's even 1,100. And then let's see what. This doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4 runes. Let's see. Hmm. Here it is. He's going to present you with 2 things. It's so bizarre how this sets up. Oh, plus. It makes no sense. A D20. All right. All right, I'm just working on your. All right. right, I gotta roll D8. 6. That's how this works. Then roll a D8 again. D6. It's hard to randomly generate. All right, so that's a Huckle group. Let's see. Here we go. Now we roll a D8. Okay. All right, so here's your you received 2 treasure items from him. All right, the first is a weapon, and it gets so lost in this crap. Holy cow. Indexes, indexes, indexes.
Please make an index.
16.
Apparently, YouTube deleted Varg's video from his
One of them, yes, yes.
It's because one of the admins plays MYFAROG and they're holding you hostage for an index.
Yeah.
I don't let you post any more videos.
All right, so he gives you a well, so he actually gives you a battle axe, a short battle axe.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Hand axe, basically.
And it's a hand axe. It has some attributes based on it. So it's all right. It's made of auricula, however you say that. Aurich Ocam. All right, so it gives you a +1 to damage.
How's that spelled? I know what
it's AURICHALCUM. Oraculum. Oraclacum. I can't say it. I don't even know what.
AURICH.
Yeah. ACHALCUM. Orich Alcum. I don't even know what the hell that is. Orich Alcum.
Or yeah, or a child.
Yeah. Yeah. So that gives a +1 to damage. And its quality. Its quality is average, so no other additional bonus on that.
Kind of dice.
All right, so it gives you a plus, so a +1 to damage, and its quality is average. Its value is 3 times the regular value. All right, so you basically have a +1 weapon now, which would allow you to hit creatures only hit by magic items.
Oh, this hits magic creatures.
Yes.
Okay, so a short axe is a D8 plus 0. So this is basically equivalent to using your spear, and it
Yes.
Can hit magic.
Yeah. The other thing that he gives you is some clothing with a cloak, so it's more like a formal wear clothing, and it is the colors of color. I've been drinking and it's tired. I'm tired. It's the colors of a nobleman.
So basically, I've gone up in class.
Yes, you've gone up in class.
So I'm basically a Jarl now.
Yes.
Ooh, that's generous.
All set. So, and that'll grant you another 250 experience points.
Oh, wow.
So now you're at 1350, I believe, for the entire adventure. Now, what I'm going to do is that since the next series of mini, adventures is going to be another mini campaign, kind of piggybacking off of this, the new set of characters, entering that phase, because if we bring your other friends in, then they'll continue that phase. They will be introduced to this storyline as an introductory to that one, and they'll be connected in a sense. So, you'll still have Najal, so he will continue forward, but he's going to have a different group, and that's when these other strings will be connected, and then a strand going forward from there.
All right.
You understand? So it's like, so now you're not going to have these NPCs with you. You're going to have players with you, just less experienced players. But now that you're a Jarl, you're going to have, these are going to be your henchmen, going forward. Your, I don't want to say servants, but your, your squad, your people that you're going to go forward with.
Excellent.
All right.
All right.
So
the next game you're wanting to play, we're kind of sort of set on the Pathfinder Call of Cthulhu?
It's if I get it in the mail anytime soon, yes.
Or
If not, or D&D, if you know, D&D, I can GM D&D. I can, the Call of Cthulhu Pathfinder. I'd rather play it than GM it, because I don't even know the game system yet. I'd have to see it first.
Do you know
So
anybody DMing that?
Do I know anybody who does? No. I don't even know anybody who's actually getting it. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. I mean, I GM'd Call of Cthulhu back in first edition, so it's been a long time. So so what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up, because we're coming up on 1:44, and so once again, thanks a lot for joining. Hopefully we'll have, your other 3 or 4 friends on, and we can, actually do a nice full-bodied adventure with multiple players, and, get all those different personalities and everything going, for a nice adventure. And hopefully like a starting out adventure. So it's something that, if it is a different game, it is. If I know they want an introductory to MYFAROG, so I'll throw something kind of short and sweet together for that. Certainly a game session that runs about 3 hours or so. This wasn't actually that bad. We went from like 10 to almost 10 to 2, so about 4 hours to run an entire adventure. So that's not terribly long.
So we'll finish up. You and I will finish up when night falls, and then if I can get the scheduling together for the other 3 people, we'll do one more thing along this storyline, then take a break from MYFAROG and go to something else.
Yes, that sounds good.
All righty.
All right. You have a good one.
All right, you too.
And I'll be away tomorrow. Be back Sunday. I don't know how much time I'll have on Sunday to do anything. I'll probably be able to get a session in on Sunday if you want.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. You have a good one. Thanks for gaming, and for everybody looking on. I hope you enjoyed this, and look forward to playing with more people in MYFAROG and other gaming interests. You'll have a good night.
Good night.